Welcome to episode number 33 of Hoop Talk Fanatics. I am here with my co-host Chris Corn, and we got a ton of stuff to dive into with Villanova's victory over Delaware State last night. Tonight's big slate, which includes Michigan State, Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, and a big matchup at 11 p.m. Eastern Time with Dane and UNLV. What are your thoughts on those three matchups?
So yeah, tonight's slate's gonna be a ton of fun. Couple injuries for Kansas and Duke will limit a little bit of what we'll expect to see throughout the season for these teams, but still two really good teams that it's gonna be a ton of fun. Both those games. The Champions Classic is always a fun way to kind of open up the season. They used to do it where it was the actual first game of the season, and I'm glad it's week 2 now because the teams can play a couple games under their belt before these big time matchups. And so I'm just really excited to see both teams. All four of these teams have shown some things in the early season. Michigan State they lost that tough one to Gonzaga, but I think they were very impressive in a lot of what they did. Um, they may not have necessarily the top talent, top recruits that these other three teams have, but they bring back a lot of guys from last year's team, and they were decent last season, and they're not ranked in top 25 now, but they have some good pieces and a chance to be really good this season, I think. All the talk is going to be on the other three teams. I think Michigan State's got a chance to really impress some people tonight.
Mm-hmm. I'm very interested to see how Antonio Reeves plays for Kentucky. I feel like he's going to have a big impact offensively for Kentucky. And AJ Hoggart and Tyson Walker are probably going to be the factors for Michigan State offensively. What do you think about their defense and going up against Kentucky's offense?
Definitely going to be interesting. One thing that I don't know if how much you watched the back in that game, but they struggled a little bit guarding Timmy in that second
Mhm.
half, especially not like consistently because they were overall pretty good holding them in check, but there was some big moments for Drew Timmy that really kind of got him going a little bit. I don't know what his stat line ended up being, but he got a few big buckets that really kind of got them going. And so that was one thing. That my point on that is that Oscar Tshiebwe is another dominant big man.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how they defend that. But it's good. But on the flip side of that, defensively, they're gonna have to find a way to get stops against Tshiebwe. Kentucky's got a lot of good pieces, but the focus is on the big man. Like that's who. If you can't continue, like get continuous stops, find a way to contain him. That's just going to open up so much else off around him, and other guys will
Mhm.
get better looks as a result. So stopping him's got to be the focus to start. So I'm interested to see how that does. But overall, I think Michigan State can build off their Gonzaga performance. It's easier to gauge them because we've already seen them in a big game. These other teams we really haven't.
Mhm.
Like all Duke, KU, Kentucky have shown a lot of good things, but against mid majors and some smaller teams, it's not harder to gauge exactly how well they're going to look. So these are big tests for them. Yeah, Michigan
Mhm.
State. They were up. They were probably up. They were up a good chunk against Gonzaga. And they kind of faltered on both ends of the floor just a little bit. They weren't terrible in the second half, but just a couple. They went a while without scoring a couple times. Just defensively weren't quite able to get these big stops. A couple plays down the stretch I didn't like that they made. And when you have veterans and upperclassmen like Michigan State has, I feel like they should be smarter down the stretch. It's early in the season, so it is. It's not a huge deal now, but they weren't sharp offensively on those final couple possessions. They took a couple bad shots that I didn't like, and it just kind of cost them. But they'll continue to get better. So I'm
Mhm.
definitely excited to see that game. Even though most of the buzz is about most of the talks about KU versus Duke, defending champs against the best recruiting class. John Shire's first big game as the Duke head coach. How's that going to go for him? And it's also flip side KU's without self. So two coaches kind of just getting in there with them, seeing how that goes for both of them. But a lot to like from both these games, I think.
So moving on to Friday's matchup, Virginia and Baylor. What do you think about that matchup? And do you think Virginia has what it takes to beat Baylor?
I do. I like Virginia a lot this season, honestly.
Mhm.
I'm trying to see who has. Do you know who Virginia? I forgot to look up who Virginia's played so far this season, but I've watched Baylor a couple times.
Mhm.
I love Baylor. They always play like middle of the day, the season
Yeah.
opener. So I'm able to just put it on while I'm working on stuff, which is so I because that's the only game on at that point. You just sit down and kind of watch them. But
They
Baylor looked really good in some sports.
Virginia played and they begun their season at home against NC Central, and they played Monmouth.
Okay. Oh yeah, they yesterday games were canceled sadly because of all that going on with them. So that
Yeah.
sucks. Hopefully it was up for them for sure. But yeah, Baylor Fridays are tough. It's gonna be
Hmm.
interesting. I really like Virginia this season though. They've
Yeah.
Tony Bennett's got they bring back a lot of guys from last season and
Hmm.
they're always gonna be good defensively. And I think they have a couple different guys who can score the ball pretty well.
Hmm.
And Joe's got another year in the system. They bring in a couple newcomers and it's just a lot of it's going to go through Kihei Clark. Can he take another step forward and become like a really dominant, scoringly good?
Hmm.
And the rest of pieces will follow. They have good players. They have a great system. So you just got to trust that system. And I think in this game, we're going to really see how good these Baylor guards can be offensively. That's how I would view it.
Yeah.
Because they've been good in the past. Last year was a tough how it ended for them, but they bring a lot of the same guys back and they have a chance to really make some big plays. And so I'm interested to see how they kind of go up against that.
Hmm. I think Virginia's Ryan Dunn is going to be a big a big player to watch out for on Friday night. Um, and So moving on to last night's game, in Philadelphia, Villanova went up against Delaware State, and it was a lot closer than I expected it would be. Um, I feel like Delaware State's playmaking offensively really tightened up Villanova's defensive plays. Um, but Villanova grinded it out and got the win. I was impressed with Eric Dixon. He was 7 from 12 from the field goal with 17 points and 7 rebounds. So, what are your thoughts on Villanova moving forward after their win last night?
Definitely, just it's good playing games without Justin Moore. In the
Hmm.
long run, it's going to help them.
Hmm.
It sucks when they look sloppy. They don't look great offensively without him, obviously. But you mentioned Eric Dixon. I think there's going to be. He's not necessarily considered one of those top bigs in the country, but he
Hmm.
has a lot of skill and he's a good player for sure. And when he has matchups like this against some smaller teams, some teams where he can get his buckets, like they're going
Hmm.
to need him to put up. He had 17, 7 for 12, like you mentioned. Like he's going to have to find a way to take advantage of those matchups when they have them
Hmm.
because they're not even with more. I don't think they're going to be quite as good offensively, maybe as they would have been last year. It's way too early to see. They'll get better as the season goes, but the guys will step up. They always have one or two guys. I feel like get
Yeah.
going that we don't expect that season. So that'll be interesting. But I wasn't able to watch any of the game, but I see Slater was 12 for 12 from the free throw line.
Hmm.
So good to see him being aggressive. Um, because overall there wasn't a ton of like they shot. There was a lot of free throws, but it didn't seem like it was just a crazy foul game.
Hmm.
So it seemed like he had to run those free throws. Then he knocked them all down, which is super important. And
Yeah.
in tough games, his free throws are so key. So he and his 15 or whatever it was, 15. It was around that range. Is
Hmm.
big. Um,
I was really surprised on how Delaware State handled the first 10 minutes of the game. They they really came out strong.
They did.
And
Yeah, I was
what
just
do you think
looking at
of?
their box score. Sorry, I was just looking at their box score real quick.
Yeah.
Their first couple games of the season, they had two players average like 20 points a game. But this game,
Hmm.
it was like they had like five guys make two shots and then like three guys with three made shots. Like they spread it
Hmm.
around and I'm assuming that had part of the issue that just everyone was chipping in a little bit, got them that lead in the first half, is my guess. 'Cause I only saw like clips and whatnot, but yeah, they just battling. They're obviously a much better team than that 2-win team they had last season, but still a little
Hmm.
disappointing. Villanova struggled a little bit, but it's November. It's college basketball. We know what it is.
I got a question for you. So, as a Villanova fan, should should I be worried of them not being in the top 25 at the moment?
No, they'll still obviously be ranked if they keep
Yeah.
winning, which can be overrated. There's been a couple more disappointing teams this season. TCU's been really disappointing, but a lot of these teams, you're missing players, and it's obviously discouraging when you struggle this much, even without Justin Moore. Like you don't want to look this bad, but it's they'll get better as the season goes. I see Caleb Daniels is only 1 for 5.
Hmm.
Archie Yakno didn't even score. I mean, he's not a big time scorer, but he had like no stats in general, so he
Hmm.
didn't do a whole lot of creating either. And that's one thing that there weren't many assists for them. They weren't doing a great job creating, and I feel like that's something they get a little more out of, like moving the ball a little bit is
Hmm.
something that's gonna be big for them. But I want to be concerned. I still think they have a really good core. They won a deep team last year, as I'm sure
Yeah.
you knew. They like when Moore got hurt before that Final Four, like they had like six players. I think they played six guys against in
Hmm.
Houston because of that game, and then Moore got hurt, and they added someone to play a few minutes who hadn't really played in the tournament. If I remember something like that. So like I think it was
Hmm.
Archie Yakino actually probably who filled in a tiny bit, but like they
I
don't go deep. They don't need them necessarily
Yeah.
because they trust their main guys, and a lot of those guys are back this year. So it's just going to take time to just kind of mesh together and get going. These guys have played together for the most part, and it is a little bit different offense. I'm blanking who's the guard you lost from last year's team?
Count Gillespie.
Okay, it was Gillespie.
Yeah.
Was Samuels there last year too?
Robertson or
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, they like you had a lot of different guys. So like I mean, but you still bring back
Yeah,
like
and
Dixon,
Samuels.
Slater, and Daniels and
Yeah.
more. Like that's a really good four guys to bring back from a Final Four team. And then you bring
Yeah.
Archie Yakino. And you have a couple other guys who have shown a little bit so far this season. So you have the
Hmm.
potential to be a little bit deeper than you were last year, I think, at least. So
What are
that's
your
there. But
thoughts? What are your thoughts on Mark Armstrong?
I don't know a lot about him. Is he a freshman?
Yeah.
Freshman, okay.
Hmm.
So I've seen he's done a little bit. I haven't been able to sit down and watch any of those games yet. I need to look at your schedule and do that. But
They
he's
play.
definitely that guy. If you're gonna have that extra depth, it's probably at the guard spot. If you want that depth, if you
Hmm.
want like that guy off the bench you can rely on, I feel like it's gonna have to be from him this season.
Hmm.
And I think that's something I heard you guys last season is just yeah, you don't necessarily need the deep bench in college basketball as we've seen from a lot of teams,
Hmm.
but having that guy you trust in games because injuries are inevitable, even if it's
Hmm.
just a game or two here or there. Having that guy you trust to come in and make big plays in that moment is so key. Foul trouble is going to happen too. So ideally, you have a guard you can come in and give minutes or something like that. Just stuff happens. So
Hmm.
depth is always a good thing, and it'll be interesting to see how he develops throughout the season. And I think he's got a good chance to provide more support off the bench than anybody did last season for you guys. Because I know last season it was Brian Antoine who was projected by many to
Hmm.
kind of be a good key piece, and he never kind of got into that rhythm. So hopefully Armstrong's able to find a way to get that. But it's also not a Jay Wright coach team anymore. So you
Hmm.
guys also solve that equation because some of these coaches are more like in their ways of like they will play like 6 or 7 guys and be fine with it.
Yeah.
And maybe this new coach isn't like that and he'll go deeper no matter what. So it's just interesting to
Hmm.
see. But you still have it's still a great team for Villanova this season. No matter how the rankings go throughout the season, you have that core that can get back to a Final Four for sure. And we'll see how the Big East goes for you. But yeah, I got a
Hmm.
lot of fun non-conference games coming up. Um, yeah, and I'm excited for Villanova this season. The Temple one was tough, but
Yeah.
Temple's a lot better than I. They're not a lot, but they're better right off the bat than I expected
Hmm.
them to be. I thought they had the potential to be really good, to be an NCAA tournament team, but they look like that right now through the first
Hmm.
couple games. I feel like so definitely that's not a bad loss. Without more, like it stinks losing in town rival and all that stuff, but that was
When
Temple's been a good team.
I'm not sure when Justin Moore is expected to be back.
Big, but yeah, you guys got a few games coming up that are going to be interesting.
Hmm.
Two is that game in East Lansing actually against Michigan State?
It's at Brunson,
Okay,
and the
that's a big
Oklahoma
one.
game. I think Oklahoma game is at the Wells Fargo Center,
Okay, and you have Iowa State as well.
and yeah,
You're
that
tested,
one. The
and
Iowa
then Big
State
East
game
isn't.
is out in Portland.
Okay, like you're tested. That's a gauntlet for Michigan State too. They go from
Yeah,
Gonzaga to Kentucky to you guys. They're getting tested right
and
off the bat.
they play Oklahoma in the Big East Big 12 battle,
Okay, that'll be good. In Wells
which
Fargo. Oh,
will
that's Wells Fargo in Des Moines.
yeah.
I think in Philly. Des Moines. Ooh, that's in. Why that in Des Moines? It's interesting. It's only a couple hours for me. That'll be a fun one though. But yeah, then like Villanova, you really
What do
don't
you
have
think?
a easy game the rest of the way.
What do you think about their game against Boston College?
Boston College is interesting. Um, I feel like they have a bad loss already this season. They did lose to Maine yesterday.
Hmm.
I don't think they're very good. The first couple of games of the season, they didn't look great. They beat Cornell, they beat Detroit, like two not terrible teams,
Hmm.
but in a power conference team, you're gonna need to obviously winning's what matters. But you lost to Maine, so I don't think that's gonna be a struggle for Villanova. But the big question is when can Justin Moore get healthy, and when can he like really start making an impact?
Yeah.
Because the big thing is NCAA tournament in the Big East. Like if he's not 100% to start Big East play, like you could lose almost anybody in that conference. You probably could
Hmm.
because Achilles are tough. Had you heard any updates on Moore recently?
There hasn't been significant updates.
Just trying to. There's no. I feel like it's going to be a while, honestly.
Yeah.
Couple months. Achilles are like those are tough. Sometimes those can take a whole year.
Hmm.
So like the big thing's going to be hopefully you can get him back to play in some meaningful regular season games. But if you just rush back for an NCAA tournament or something like that, it's not going to be good for him, and that would just be tough to do. But
Maybe
hopefully,
he'll maybe I think my prediction is he'll be back by close to the end of January.
yeah, end of January and use the first couple weeks of February. Hopefully, just walk him in a
Yeah.
little bit, and then that gives you the last week or two of February regular season to really hopefully be close to 100% and really go for it,
Hmm.
and then use the Big East tournament to get going. But I forgot, yeah, Achilles, because I'm like last season. Usually you don't, but he was injured like April, so
Hmm.
like that pushes it back like a lot. So you just gotta hope
I
you can
would
get back to 100% at some point this season. But
um
obviously, you still have a good team without him. So
yeah.
I'm not.
I'm actually looking at their schedule for the month of January, and I would love him to be back starting on the 13th at Butler, and I would love to have him back uh, the games after that one, especially against Providence.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of Achilles. It just depends. It's just gonna be tough.
Yeah,
10,
it's.
10 I
I
feel
mean,
like January is probably best case scenario for him.
mhm,
I feel like
yeah,
I just hope he can play this season because a
hmm
lot of times Achilles kind of linger the whole next year. It's just tough being the end of the season. What class is he?
Uh,
Would this be his last year eligibility? What do you have?
I
It's so hard to
forget.
track people over now.
I'm checking right now. He is. 1 second. He's a senior.
Yeah, okay. So hopefully you can get him back to the NCAA tournament. But
Hmm
honestly, even without him, the potential still there for a really good team.
hmm
Because I think I still trust Caleb Daniels. He's been a little bit shaky from what I've seen to start the season. But I really like Slater and Dixon.
hmm
I think those two are going to be big. And I mean, you have decent
How
guard
about
plays.
how about Trey Patterson?
Trey Preston, I don't know a lot about him either.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be interesting to see how you can get these guys along and kind of get them developed.
hmm
But I mean, it's all there for you. You have the pieces to be really good, as is. But it's going to be tough. The Big East is tough. So
hmm
you're going to be tested a lot. And we'll see what kind of, I think how good Eric Dixon is this season could be a big factor because I think he trusts Slay to be good. Hopefully, Daniels will get a little more consistent. He's gonna have to be a big time shot maker. Hopefully, he can kind of create for himself a little bit. I
hmm
think Archie Diacono will get in it with him, get in his role, good role at some point. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I
if
think Eric
Dixon could be a
Dixon.
consistent 15-8 guy, that would be
hmm
big.
I think Eric Dixon could
I
be
think he
in
can be
talks.
most nights.
I think he can be in talks of the Big East most improved player.
I do too. I think Villanova needs him to be all Big East conference type guy
Yeah.
in this season. The Big East has a lot of good players, but I don't think that he should be in that conversation as well.
hmm
And I think so far this season he's kind of shown he can be. We'll see. He's definitely gone because we've been following him. You've been following him definitely even more closely than me. But the past couple years, I feel his offensive game has gotten a lot better, and he's
hmm
definitely more comfortable. There's a lot of stuff he can do going to basketball in like a lot of different ways. So that's gonna be big time. But definitely, I mean, you got some good games coming up, so we're gonna see what he's made of against
hmm
these next couple teams. And so we talked about Michigan State. We'll see Michigan State tonight, and then you guys play on
hmm
Friday, I believe it was, if I saw correctly. Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday, a couple
Friday
days from
at
now. So
8
yeah, you
p.m.
get that. So we'll see how Michigan State presents. Friday, 8 p.m. Okay. So yeah, we'll see. Because Michigan State struggled. Drew Timmy's a different animal. Oscar Tshiebwe is a different animal. We're not
hmm
comparing Eric Dixon to him, but hopefully there's something he can see that those guys were able to do successfully, and hopefully he can have some of that same success against Michigan State because that's what the great bigs do. He's still a little bit younger than those guys, but
hmm
if he wants to take that next step and be great, definitely got to be able to take advantage of some of these matchups.
So I want to talk about two more games. Marquette and Purdue, and UNLV and Dayton. What are your thoughts on the Purdue matchup?
I I think that's going to be a solid game. Where's it played at? I haven't checked that yet.
Uh, I it's being played at Purdue.
At Purdue, so that helps them a little bit. Purdue's a big favorite. It says. I don't know much about Marquette this season. Um, I still I don't think I really don't think Purdue's very good.
hmm
Like I just don't. I mean, I don't know. They always find a way to be decent somehow. I
hmm
think so. I think they have a good chance in this one, but I
They
don't. I
got
think this game could go either way. Honestly,
Purdue has to play West Virginia after that.
they got tough. So we're gonna learn a lot about Purdue these next couple games. how good
Yeah,
they really can be. It's
I'm
gonna be
excited to
interesting.
watch
Marquette
them.
has a lot of new faces.
I'm excited to watch them on December 4th against Minnesota.
Minnesota.
That should be
They produce
a
test.
very interesting game
Minnesota's gonna be interesting. Minnesota lost bad last night against
against
DePaul.
DePaul.
DePaul's a really good team. DePaul's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
They're gonna be a lot. I don't know how they're projected in the Big East, but they have a really good basketball team. I didn't realize all these guys
What's
transferred to Purdue.
what's your prediction of who will win the Big East? I mean, the Big Ten.
The Big Ten's so up in the air.
Yeah.
Right now, I don't, because I'm trying to think of most people, because Illinois has gotten a little bit of love. I think
Hmm.
Indiana's a little bit overhyped. Because Illinois is getting there's so many teams in the mix, like Illinois, Michigan's somewhat in there, Indiana.
Hmm.
Then you got I think Wisconsin's kind of close, but I think Michigan State's got a really good chance to get back up towards the top. But I think it's going. I don't. I think it's going to be a team that loses like 5 or 6 conference games very easily, maybe even more. I think it's going to be super close to the top. I think
Yeah.
Michigan. I really do. I think Michigan State's going to win the Big Ten. I really like how they played to start the season, and I just trust their vets that
Hmm.
they have on their roster. I think it'll work out for them, but we'll see. But I really think they have some good pieces there. Willie Call, Tyson Walker, like they have guys who I trust.
Surprisingly,
And
surprisingly, Penn State is out to a 3-0 start.
Penn State's going to be much improved this season too. Definitely will be. So I mean, the Big Ten's loaded this year.
I I kind of like Illinois to win the Big Ten.
I think a lot of people like Illinois. They've kind of been
Yeah.
picked a lot. I do too. I like Illinois. Um, they they got a lot of pieces. They really disappointed me last season.
Hmm.
I mean, they did. They did. I forgot they did bring in Tanner Shannon. That's a big pickup. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, they have. I forgot they got Danger from Baylor, so like they have a lot of good players. It's also it's a really different roster than in the
Hmm.
past. They brought it like they have a ton of transfers, a ton of new players. I don't know if really anybody on the team was there last year, if I remember right.
Uh,
I don't think
yeah.
anybody.
I can't
I don't think
remember.
they brought anybody back
Yeah.
because Matthew Meyer's there, Danger, and I mean Sky Clark's there. He'll play a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
and some different transfers. Like they really don't have bringing any people back. I think a couple role players. Melendez was there last season, but like they don't have. It's a bunch of new faces, so fitting those pieces together is going to be interesting.
Hmm.
But Illinois is going to be really good. For sure. They're definitely going to be a big threat because it's a different style of team than I think we've seen in the past. Because obviously without Kofi, you don't have that
Hmm.
dominant force down low. So it's gonna be interesting how they kind of fit, and they don't have all those tiny guards either. Like they still have some small guards who are big time players, but they have a couple wings. Like Shannon on the wing is the guy they really haven't had.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Actually,
be
I'm looking
interesting
at
how
their
they fit all those
schedule.
pieces.
I'm looking at Illinois' schedule, and they got a big test Friday night against UCLA.
That's gonna be a fun. Friday, we got a lot of games Friday.
Yeah, and that game is at Vegas
That that's awesome.
at
Got
T-Mobile
plenty of
Arena.
games. That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, Baylor and Virginia. Oh, those games are in the same spot. It's Baylor,
Yeah,
Virginia, and Vegas, and then that one's after. That's a nice little.
yeah,
It's a fun little thing out there. Dang, that's gonna be an awesome night of basketball. I didn't even
yeah,
realize those teams. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure.
and
We also got
and
the game tomorrow. Gonzaga plays Texas tomorrow,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting. See how
I
good, because Texas is getting hyped a lot, but I don't know if I see it.
yeah. I unfortunately won't be able to watch that game since I got work.
That's tough. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'll be able to either, but I'll definitely follow along to that one.
Uh, I like the Xavier matchup on Friday also against
Who do they
Indiana
play?
against Indiana.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's at Xavier. I don't even know much about Xavier this season. They do
They
still okay. They do still have Fremantle and Nunji.
yeah.
I thought they would. So I mean, they're still really good. I figured they did. I just hadn't really heard of it. They haven't got a lot of talk this season, but
Hmm.
those they have a few really good players and at Xavier, I believe is what I just saw. But that's gonna be a tough test for Indiana.
Hmm.
Like you're a team that I like thinks you're the best in the Big Ten and can make on a Final Four. Those are the games that great teams can win. So we'll
Hmm.
see how that goes for them.
So before we end this episode, I would like to talk briefly on tonight's Dane UNLV matchup. Uh, so what are your thoughts on this matchup, and do you think UNLV has what it takes to beat Dane?
I definitely think this one can go either way. I'm pretty sure it's
Hmm.
in Vegas as well. Helps a lot. Dayton,
Yeah, I
I
think
believe Dayton
hotel.
still has some injury. I think I feel like Dayton is still without their point. I remember correctly, but and I've no find official report on that. But
Hmm.
definitely because UNLV just I watched UNLV play a little bit. I forgot who they played last.
They played in Carson at Wood.
Oh, I like okay, never mind. I thought they played. I must have just had my days off. I thought they played someone better. So this is their first test of the
They
season.
started
But Dane did play SMU. I watched part of that one.
they started
That
their
I just
season.
had. I think I just had my team.
Uh, UNLV started their season against Southern.
Okay, yeah. So I must have. I think I watched Dayton play. Actually, I just had it mixed up
Yeah,
before. But yeah, Dayton has a really good team for sure.
I'm excited to watch Darian Holmes the second.
He's been really good this season to start. I'm trying to think. I think it was Malachi. Yeah, Malachi Smith is still out for Dane.
Hmm.
He was kind of their star freshman guard last year. They were really good last season, and they surprised a lot of people last season because they beat Kansas last season, and that was kind of a
Hmm.
shocker. But
What do you think
it just
about
kind of worked out.
about the Big West?
Big West. It's trying to think again. Who's all in that conference? I need to look it up.
I'm not too familiar with that conference.
No, I'm trying to think. That's not. I just need to double check. I don't want to forget somebody because I keep clicking on. Oh yeah, because UC Irvine was the team they beat Oregon, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
So like that was a huge win for them. Um, I think that's the only marquee game that I've seen. I don't think
Hmm.
there's been any other big wins for the conference yet. And UC Santa Barbara beat Fresno State. That's a pretty good win too. So I mean, that
Actually,
conference, those teams, there's a couple good teams in that conference.
Thursday, UC Riverside plays at number 10 Creighton.
So that'll be a good one. They're a pretty good team. They lost to Colorado
Hmm.
by double figures, but they'll. I mean, if Creighton plays bad, another team you can
Hmm.
up that could be an upset. But the Big West always has a couple teams. It looks like UC Irvine's. UC Irvine's been to tournament a handful of times.
Hmm.
They've had some really good teams, and it looks like they're on their way to do that again. Because they beat Oregon. I don't know what the score was. They beat Oregon by double figures on the road, and
Hmm.
Oregon's a really good team. So like that was kind of a shocker. Davis had 24 for him, and they really Oregon's guards didn't do much. Will Richardson only had 4 points, and he's been a big time player for them the past couple of years.
Hmm.
They really kind of locked him down. Dante had 20 inside, but they didn't have anything on the perimeter consistently. So I'm interested to see if that's an issue for them. But I think Will Richardson will get better for Oregon. So I don't think that's too
Hmm.
much of a concern moving forward. But definitely, definitely a little bit concerning the way they lost that game. Because even when your best player has an off, your guard has an off night, you should have other guys around him, and they didn't have that night.
Hmm. So we definitely covered a ton, and I'm definitely looking forward to this week's slate of games, especially starting Thursday with the Shriners Classic and everything from that to more small conference tournaments. And tonight should be a stacked one with Michigan State, Kentucky, Duke, Kansas, as we talked about. And I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's matchup.
Definitely, definitely. Tonight's championship classic is going to be a blast.
So this has been episode number 33 of Hoop Talk Fanatics. And we are looking forward to our next episode. And we are happy to have college basketball back and in good spirits.